Welcome. I'm here with Gil Tayar. Welcome, Gil, to the show.
Thank you.
So, Gil, uh, this is not your first NodeConf.
Not at all.
So tell me, what was the first year you've been to NodeConf EU? I should be specific.
Yep. I just checked with Google. 2018.
2018. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. You had these badges with IoT in them, and they flashed.
Esprino was the chipset. I was here in 2018 also, and you spoke at NodeConf in 2018.
I did.
Do you remember? Do you remember the talk?
I don't, but it's probably about ESM.
Yeah, this is like your specialty, right?
It's my thing.
Your specialty, yeah.
Yeah. Miles. It's because of Miles. I met him at a conference in Japan.
Okay.
A Node conference, and he hooked me up into the whole ESM thing. I followed it very closely. I wasn't really in the loop, but I really did follow the conversations, the discussions, the whole thing, how it was implemented, everything. So I knew what ESM was all about, and I really wanted to talk about it.
Because in 2018, ESM was still kind of a long ways away. Was it already in the browsers in 2018, or
I think it was already in the
browsers?
Yes.
So
yeah,
we're still using Require, CommonJS, and Node. Sorry, go ahead.
It started becoming, I think, already in Node, but it was a very minimal implementation.
Okay.
No, it didn't have lots of stuff that there is today, and there was a lot of controversy about how to implement it. So it took a very, very long while until it reached the form it is today, where it's like fully baked into.
Yeah, built into Node.js right from the start. So at NodeConf this year in 2023, you're speaking about ESM, ESModules again, right?
Again, yeah.
So we haven't done the talk yet, but I don't want to spoil it for all the viewers.
No, that's fine.
But they can go watch the talk afterwards also.
Exactly.
Can you just tell us a little bit about the topic specifically for your talk this year around the loaders?
Yes, ESM now is fully baked, and the developers that implemented ESM understood that they needed a way to hook into model loading, because we have that in CommonJS. It's a hack in CommonJS, but it works and everybody uses the same hack, so it's basically like a semi-formal hack. And they did not want hacks. So they implemented a way to hook into the module loading system. It's called module loaders. I think it's now called customization hooks. I don't know. Let's keep it ESM loaders, and it's really nice.
So can you give me an example, a use case? Sorry to put you on the spot, but a use case of when people would want to hook into the loader. What like in CommonJS, what's a common use case for having a hook into the loading system?
It's basically the same use cases. So the classic one is transparent transpilation of TypeScript. That's the three T's. So you want to run TypeScript code and not like pre-compile it. So you use TSNode, I think it's, so TSNode hooks into the CommonJS system. It now also knows how to hook into the ESM loaders, using ESM loaders. So that's one. Another is import maps, where browsers use that, where you specify where the packages are. So you say Lodash is here, this is there, etc., etc. So package managers like PMPM or Yarn, they don't have the packages in the regular place, so they would like to specify where those are.
Right.
So you can do that also with ESM loaders. It's called resolution. You can specify where the module actually is, and not follow the regular node resolution.
So at load time or resolution time, it can dynamically pull in modules from different places. Exactly. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. And will this? I want to just ask you a question, see if I have this straight in my head. Would this be a step towards using the new test runner in Node.js with TypeScript that we could, completely, run our tests in TypeScript directly with Node.js without a lot of extra tooling to transpile or
Absolutely. I mean, you can do it today with ESM loaders and with TSNode. I think what Node wants to do is put that into the language.
Okay.
Into Node.js, not the language.
Right, into the
My
core,
guess
yeah.
is that they'll do it in some kind of built-in ESM loader. I'm not sure, but that makes sense to do it that way.
This is what I love about Node.js, the community, about being at NodeConf, is Node.js wasn't invented yesterday, right? Like this has been around for a number of years now, but like it's still dynamic, it's still growing, like we're still getting new functionality like directly into the core. This is what's just so exciting for me, being a Node.js developer. One of the things that I love about Node.js is just seeing this progress. So were you a part of those standards, a part of those? What was your role in the ESM?
Formally, I was like a member of the working group.
Okay.
But there were like 40, so I was invited to the discussions, but I didn't really. In the end, it's the developers. The say goes to the developers that submit PRs and submit code, and I don't do. I have about 20 lines of code in Node.js, so I'm not really a contributor.
That still counts. That
Yeah,
still
yeah,
counts.
Absolutely.
I love the call out though. That's all about PRs. It's when I watch the community, this is a common call out is like, hey, make a PR. And I feel like there's so many different levels of PRs, right? You could have a PR, a pull request that's a one-liner, or it could be documentation, or we've also seen some really big ones when they're changing out a large, functionality of Node.js core. So I love that call out, like make PRs, like be a contributor, and that's what you've done. And being a part of the discussions in the working group.
And that is what I mostly did. I was an observer, and at least 2 or 3 talks came out of observing everything. I have at least 3 talks about ESM, if not 4, and they come out of observing. And when you observe the historical progress, that's when you understand the most about the motivations, etc., etc. So I was in a position to to talk about it in a knowledgeable way, in an educated way.
Yeah.
And that for me is what my role in the Node.js community. It's more education and talking about things and less of like contributing lines of code, which I'm fine with. By the way, the 2 ESM loader talks, I had one in Tel Aviv, Node TLV. So I was writing the code and writing the slides, and then like I was writing the code for the HTTP loader, which loads from HTTP, and suddenly there was this like something that just didn't make sense.
Which was?
Oh, the resolution. I don't remember.
Okay,
The
okay,
resolution,
that's just detail.
the default resolution algorithm didn't blah, 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 blah. And I was like, no, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense at all. It should be A, B, C, D, E, F. So I write to the developers, this doesn't make sense, and say, oh yeah, it makes sense. Just write a PR. So I wrote a PR, and like the loader came from 20, 30 lines of code, like down to 10 lines of code.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this time, I was working on, there were big changes in the loader thing, and I was working on something, and there's loader chaining, and the order of loaders wasn't what I was expecting. It was like wrong. And I was like, okay, I opened an issue, I created a reproduction, which is like minimal, and I found the bug. I didn't fix it, but these 2 talks about ESM loaders changed little things in ESM loaders themselves.
That's a
which was
beautiful
fun.
story. Yeah, I like that story. So I've had the privilege to see you on the stage giving talks, and you are one of my favorite speakers because you have this energy on the stage and a little bit of humor, and it's just so comfortable to watch you speak. You said your first talk was in 2018. That was the first time speaking at a tech conference?
At NodeConf? Yeah. No. My first talk was 2014, I think.
Okay.
It was also Node. It was about callbacks. It was called From Callback Hell to Async Heaven. It was like the beginning where people were just talking about promises and async await and all that.
Yeah.
So I discussed how like we're working with callbacks now. This sounds so archaic now. We're working with callbacks, and promises are the purgatory, and what awaits us is async heaven.
I remember the callback hell and promises. yeah, a lot of thens.
I remember the discussions around that. Oh, performance will be horrible. Promises are going to be the death of Node.js and JavaScript.
And here we are with async await, and it's just the way
Who
of the
remembers
future.
callbacks anymore?
Yeah. So I guess I wanted to ask, having been a speaker for nearly 10 years at tech conferences, is there a secret to getting involved, getting on the stage, making a presentation, presenting? If somebody's watching us today and they've attended a tech conference and they said, maybe one day I could be on the stage, would you have any advice for that person?
Yeah. I've mentored a lot actually, and pushed them towards the stage. Two myths. Your talk has to be ready before you submit a CFP, before you submit a proposal, which is no. Like I sometimes like just write the proposal, throw it, and like, oh, now I have to write the thing. Now I have to research it. Now I have to understand it fully. Okay, I can do that. So don't wait.
So myth one is thinking,
Submit. I call it conference develop CDD, conference development. Oh,
the CFP
yeah,
call for proposal, right?
Exactly. So that's one myth.
Yeah.
The other, oh shit, I don't remember. I lost track.
Well,
Yeah,
I love I love that point, because I think a lot of people don't realize that that there is a process to speak in a conference, and the first part is to respond to the request. When a conference is organizing, they're going to ask people to submit proposals, which is like an abstract.
Yes.
And you're going to write roughly a paragraph, usually a short paragraph, right? That's not the hard part. That's the easy part.
That's the easy part.
The hard part is then transforming that paragraph into, a talk, whether it's 20, 25, 50 minutes, depending on the conference. At least for me. Is that the hard part for you?
It's the hard part, but then you have to do it.
Yeah,
You have
you're
no
committed.
choice.
You're committed if they've accepted your talk.
That's the beauty of it.
That's the fun.
You're totally afraid. Submit a CFP, and then you have no choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after having done this for nearly 10 years, the other question I have for you, are you still nervous when you go on the stage?
I was never nervous. But no. I don't. I'm sorry. I sound like I'm like.
Well, you're an amazing speaker. You have the right. You honestly have the right. It shows in your talks.
I never do dry runs.
Really?
Never.
Wow.
Even for this is I just don't. I look at the time and I pace it, and sometimes it's too much to talk about.
Yeah.
And then I like drop a section, or okay, this is what I'm not going to talk about.
Wow. Freestyle.
And sometimes I've nothing more to, so I pace it and I go slowly and explain every little bit and a joke here and a joke there, and I fill in the time. So I never dry run. But look, I'm like not a lot like me. I don't know why I'm like that. But most people get very, very nervous, and that is fine.
Yeah, that's
That
perfectly
is
normal,
fine.
right? I think that's an interesting point.
And most speakers, they get nervous the first 2 minutes, and then they're fine. They totally forget about it. So when I tell people that speak for the first time, they said, "Don't worry, you will be very, very nervous for a minute or two. That's fine. It's okay. And you will talk like very robotically the first 2 minutes, and then you'll forget about it, and you'll be okay."
Oh, I love that advice, because if people ask me, "Are you nervous getting on the stage?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like, I'm always nervous, but I try to channel that energy into focusing on what I need to say. And for me, to kind of treat that nervousness and anxiety as almost like adrenaline, to like, let's just go even further. Let's go even stronger. And I think that's the thing. Like, being nervous is normal, right? Like, most people.
Absolutely.
We have exceptions, obviously, but most people are going to feel that way. But that's perfectly normal. Like you said, once you get in the flow, it just goes.
Once you get into the flow, most speakers are fine.
And if somebody stumbles, what's the advice you give them? Because
Everybody stumbles. Everybody does. I stumble. And that's fine.
being human.
Yeah. I've seen. Oh, that was like a speaker coming up to the stage, and starting to talk, and they were like totally not there. They started mumbling and getting really, really nervous. And it was an Israeli crowd, the Israeli crowd, and then she stopped, and then they stopped and said, I can't do this anymore.
Wow.
And the Israeli crowd was amazing. They like started clapping and applauding, and you can do this, etc. They restarted, and it was fine. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's the other thing. If I'm watching a speaker, and sometimes you can see a speaker who's visibly nervous, but I just have empathy for that person. I want them to feel comfortable, and I think that's the thing to remember, that if you stumble, like everybody in the, you're normally in front of a wonderful crowd, especially at tech conferences. I find people are just so warm and welcoming, and you're really, they're gonna boost you through that moment. So I haven't, through the magic of production, I haven't seen your talk yet. Anyone watching this video, they should go and check it out, because I'm sure they'll be roughly up there at the same time, because I'm 100% convinced it's going to be a great talk. No pressure.
Thank you. It's going to be very, very, very technical, like code after code after code after
All right,
code.
I'm ready for it.
No time for jokes.